Hi, I'm Jen from Kiss of Metal, and in this video I'm going to show you how I would use this Longhorn Skull die. So you definitely wouldn't want to use a ball of silver because when you press it, it just wouldn't reach the horns. So you'd have to use a sheet of silver. So you could either use a thicker bit and keep pressing it. You'd have to then continuously cut around the shape and then press again. Or what I'm going to do is with a thinner sheet of silver, I'm going to use a 0.5mm thickness. Cut it to the size that you need, and then with polyurethane keep pressing it into the mould, and then I'm going to cut that shape and then solder it onto a back plate. So yeah, let's give it a try and see what it looks like. When I press the metal for the first time, I always like to stick it down with a bit of masking tape. It stops the metal from skidding around. So I'm going to be using the flat pusher for this one. Make sure it's in the centre of the hydraulic press. So look from the front, look from the side as well, check it's in the centre. And then you want to put the die in the centre of the pusher. So where you're pressing, so on this one I'm doing right in the centre of the die, so that needs to be lined up with the centre of the pusher. Check from the front of the press to make sure it's in the centre, and then go to the side and check it's in the centre as well. Anneal the metal to soften it before you do your second press. I started with the red polyurethane, but now I'm going to go in with the black. It's a harder material, so when it presses in, it's going to pick up all those little intricate details a bit more. The main part of the skull's looking great, but you can tell that the tips of the horns haven't quite pressed into the die enough. So doing one at a time, I'm just going to place some of the polyurethane at the tip of the horn and concentrate all the force in these areas. So you'll notice that I'm putting the die off centre in comparison to where the pusher is, and that's deliberately done. That's because we want to push all the force at the tip of the horn where we've placed the polyurethane. Always, always, always put the part that you're pressing in the centre of the pusher. And then repeat the process on the other side. Sawing around these can be really tricky when there's no defining line. So what I like to do is draw around it with a marker. And then you can either saw to the outer edge of that mark that you've just drawn, or you could saw towards the middle. It depends how much of a border you want to keep. So on this one, I'd quite like to have a little bit of a border, maybe like about 1mm or 1/2 mil. So I'm just going to aim to saw around the border of the pen that I've drawn. Make sure to direct the heat on the back plate first, get that really nice and hot, and then the solder will flow and it'll avoid any risk of melting the part you're soldering on. There we go. So that is how I would use the Longhorn Skull impression die. Now give it a try yourself and see what results you get.